Well, good viewers, this year is quickly becoming the year of spy films because of how many good ones we've been coming out with. Next on the list, unfortunately, one that's a little disappointing. Hello and welcome to another midnight showing. As always, I'm Kelly, and I just got out of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. U.N.C.L.E. Literally, they put dots on each one, just so you know. Alrighty, so I'm not going to be doing a jump cut one like I normally do, just because of time constraints. I got to film like 3 of these in a row. So, final verdict on this movie is it's worth a watch at probably a matinee price. If you can get it in a cheap seat or in one of the cheaper theaters, by all means, go do it. But it's probably not worth paying full price if you can't help it. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just doesn't live up to the other spy films that have come out in recent memory, such as Mission Impossible, which is a far better film, which if you haven't seen that. But I digress. If you want to stay for spoilers, here we go. General premise of this entire film is basically around Henry Cavill's character, Napoleon Solo, as his name completely implies by the non-subtle way of stating it. He works for the CIA. Former criminal made a deal with them, and now he's their most successful agent, I think they end up calling him in the movie. He's on the prowl to save a girl who has a father who happens to be a bomb maker for the Germans, ex-Germans anyway. He disappeared. Now he's made a nuke for somebody and he has to find it. And in order to do that, he needs to team up with a Russian spy who is basically his exact opposite. Whereas Henry Cavill's character is suave, sophisticated, and knowledgeable, he prefers to talk his way through situations rather than shoot. I can't think of his name because they stopped actually using names after a little while in this film. The Russian, played by Armie Hammer, same guy who was inside Lone Ranger. But he is a very, very strong. He thinks punch first rather than talk. And don't think that he's unsophisticated. No, he's a chess master. He strategizes how he's going to punch you. He's just the guy who thinks that strength is more important than talking. And as you can imagine, they've have bad history with each other via the opening segment of this movie. But they end up putting their differences aside to stop a nuke from getting in the hands of somebody. To say this story is overused is an understatement. Hell, Spy, that came out earlier this year, had the exact same goddamn premise. Agents get burned. You have to find a nuke before they sell it off to somebody who's going to use it on a major city. Insert your witty comment here. This is not an original story. That's not a bad thing if they can put a new spin on it. And sometimes in this movie, they do. Other times, it's so note for note, it gets boring and repetitive. You can tell what's going to happen, where, why, how, and who. It's not subtle, especially when this movie tries to pull the rug out from you several times. But we'll get back to that in a second. Going on with some of the better stuff, the acting. Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer, perfect. I probably say his name right. If I'm saying it wrong, put it in the comments below. I just realized I was probably saying it wrong. But they were pitch perfect. They really were. Perfect foils for each other, constantly going back and forth, trying to one-up each other. In fact, there's one point where Henry Cavill's character, he ends up finding all of the bugs that Armie Hammer is placed around his hotel room because they have to have different hotel rooms because of comedic effect. He finds them all. He ends up knocking on the guy's door. He's like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. We can't be seen talking to each other." My Russian's horrible. Henry Cavill just starts throwing him. "These were in my room." all Russian made. 1 second. He goes back in his room. He comes back up. These were in my room. They are American made. And pretty low tech considering. They're always constantly going back and forth. They're having little funny inner monologue chats with each other. It's really entertaining. And it really kind of highlights one of the problems inside of it. Is that, yes, their banter is amazing. It's exciting. It's funny. But when the movie tries to go serious, it doesn't work. Like, at all. I'll get more into the shifting tones in a second, but needless to say, they were fun to watch. They were really fun to watch, especially in the interrogation scene when they're trying to figure out what to do with somebody. It's pretty funny. Well, I don't want to spoil it for those who want to see that one. That scene alone is probably one of the better scenes in the film. But the female lead, good girl, I can't think of her name. She is a German whose father is building this nuke. She's basically just there to be the arm candy for until they try to pull the rug out from under with her character. But yeah, she's just there. She's supposed to introduce the spies to her uncle who works for the company that supposedly has her father, who, yeah, it's complicated spy stuff. It really is. And I'm trying to find a better way of describing this film, but it's just stupidly complex. For such a simple premise that so many different spy films, TV shows, hell, books have done, yeah, they overcomplicate it by throwing in a lot of unneeded stuff. But as an actress, she was perfectly serviceable. I didn't think that she was anything extremely out there, especially after the whole twist with her character comes into play. It doesn't work. She just didn't do anything with it. She could have been more than just Princess Peach, and they tried to act like she was, but she ended up just being Princess Peach, captured, gotta save her now. Yay! But let's get on to some more of the good stuff. Some of the good stuff are the action scenes. And a lot of these action scenes are just, again, hilarious. This whole movie felt like it was trying to be a throwback to a good 1960s Bond film. It's silly, it's over the top. You got the womanizer, you got the straight man, you got the arm candy. It feels really, really, really fun at times. And the action scenes do reflect that. The highlights are the opening action scene where Henry Cavill and the Russian are introduced to each other, and they've got to kind of one-up each other as they're trying to save or get this girl out of Berlin. And that is just a really good scene. But the other highlight is when Henry Cavill and Irving whatever his name is, I'm just calling him the Russian, have to break into the supposed villain's vault where they're keeping the bomb. It turns out that they're just too late and it's already been moved, but after they break in and you know the alarm's going to go off right when it does, they go into a pretty good action scene where they're trying to get away from all the cops shooting, all the guards shooting at them, and they end up getting a boat and doing this really, really cool run-around stuff. But it was just fun. It's just fun. At one point, Henry Cavill literally just stops the action scene. He literally just stops, gets inside of a car to hide where there's a basket, and he just starts eating. So he gets inside of this car and just starts eating, and puts on some really, really good music. There's another big plus of this movie is the soundtrack. Every single piece, whether it be orchestrated or whether it just be stock 60s and 70s, is just perfect for every scene. But yeah, he just turns on the radio, turns it to some good classical, and he's sitting there drinking some wine. Oh, hey, look. It looks like there's some bread. There's a sandwich in there. The entire time, in the background, inside of the mirrors, inside of the front windshield, you can see the Russian in the boat trying to get away from people shooting him down with machine guns. And eventually the whole boat bursts into flames and starts sinking. He's just sitting there. Hits the car on, rolls up the window, drives off, and he ends up driving that truck right on top of the boat that was chasing after the other guy as he comes to investigate the flaming wreckage. As he sinks, he ends up locating his body. Rolls down the window, all the water floods in. He goes out and saves him. It's a really good, intense action scene that had some really cool editing with it. By the way, that's another thing that I will say is different. I'm not going to call it good or bad because it just really depended on the scene. But in this case, it was really good and effective. Occasional shaky cam, occasional just wide shots, attaching a GoPro to one point and just following the action with a GoPro. It was really good. These different types of shots, different type of cameras, just worked so well for what they were doing for this scene. In other scenes, it doesn't mesh as much. When it goes from cam to quick cut to like following the camera following the action, kind of like they did inside of Furious 7, it just doesn't work all the time. So I'm not going to call it bad. I'm just going to say it was different and relatively enjoyable. I'm not going to complain about it because it was enjoyable. Now, going into the bad, there's only really two things that are bad about this film that would keep me from saying go see it immediately. One is the tone, and it shifts all over this place, and it's like it wasn't filmed consistently. As I said, it felt like it was a throwback to the 1960s era spy films and TV shows that we all know and are campy fun. But this movie tried to add in a lot of stuff that was modern. As I said, quick cuts like the Jason Bourne movies. You can clearly see the styles of other more modern spy films getting intermixed in there. And it doesn't work, like, at all. I can say that there are parts in this movie that had me laughing hysterically, which is why I say it was entertaining enough to go. It's worth a watch. But there was also parts of this film where I was literally sitting there inside of the theater, confused. Am I supposed to be sad? Am I supposed to be disturbed? Am I supposed to be indifferent? Come on, you're giving me mixed signals here. Am I supposed to be laughing or am I supposed to be on the edge of my seat? This isn't Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible was able to bring in Sean Penn, who was great at the comic relief that doesn't break tension. This movie felt like, here's a comedy, here's a spy, here's action, here's some more comedy, here's some more action. It didn't feel like a cohesive movie through and through, tone-wise. The story was... And this part of that problem is the story, which is the second thing that's horribly wrong about this. As I said, you've seen this movie before. You've seen every single twist, and this movie tries to pull the rug out on you. Complete Sherlock Holmes style. Is that what you thought happened? Well, actually, let's flash back and show that's not what happened. This is what happened. It does it 3 or 4 freaking times in this movie, and 2 of those don't even count as surprises. One of the things that gets pulled out under the rug is just this guy who you see in the background on a couple of shots turns out to be with British intelligence, and the girl she turns out to be working for the British. They got to her 2 years before anybody else did, and they ended up recruiting her. And she ends up turning on the others so that she can get into the secret base and get the nuke. And then this guy shows up and says, this is what actually was happening the entire time. Now, you see, this might have been a legitimately clever twist if it hadn't been shown inside of the trailers. You see this guy interacting with them. He's the one who says, Oh yes, and you have a new code name. It's Uncle. And that's at the very end of the movie. That one scene is at the very end of the movie. Why would you show him in this situation talking to the spies as if he's their boss? Why, trailer? Why? It completely ruins this twist inside the film because we all know it's coming now. Just, ugh. That twist was probably legitimately good, but I knew it was coming from a mile away. Not just because I've seen so many spy films, because I watched the goddamn trailer. And then the other one that just doesn't work is literally the climax pull out the rug twist, where they have to keep the lady talking outside of her radio long enough for them to launch a missile that they ended up taking from her because it could home in on the nuke that the missile that they gutted and made into a nuke. They tried to pull this out from under your rug when we literally saw them talk and do all this about 3 minutes ago, and it's not like they're being subtle with what they're doing. We hear the missile go off in the background, and we see the guy who worked on the missiles beforehand. It just doesn't work at all. It can't be a twist if you literally cut back less than 2 minutes movie time. That's how far back they cut to say, oh, did you miss this? Did you miss this? No, we didn't. Your audience is not stupid. We saw this. And God, this just makes me want to... It felt pretentious. It felt like it was trying to be clever, and it wasn't. And I didn't like that part. I really just... It bugs the living out of me that they thought that we were stupid enough to even try to put this as a twist at the end. Now, I don't think that this movie is bad. I mean, it is really fun. Henry Cavill is basically playing Neil Caffrey, slightly dumber, because I'm pretty sure Neil Caffrey would remember that a 710 big old vault safe had an alarm attached to it. I'm pretty sure Neil Caffrey would remember that. But yeah, he's basically playing Neil Caffrey, and I love white collar. So it's bread and butter for me. The relationship with Irving Hammer's character, I know I'm saying that wrong, but with his character, it's just perfectly encapsulated. And they left it open for some sequels, or they just made an ending so that they could connect it to the series that this is, TV series this is based on, and say, hey, this is a prequel movie for the TV series. Which I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. So yeah, my final verdict from this one is go see it, but go for a matinee. If it goes to your cheap theaters, go for the cheap theaters. It's not quite worth full price. It's not as clever or as original as it would think it is. So yeah, that's it for me. Have you seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E? Did you enjoy the video? Tell me what you thought about the film in the comments below, and maybe we'll get some healthy discussion going. If you want to see some more of my videos, I will have them posted right down here. Inside of here, I might have one right here, but I don't think I will, but more recent videos. If you want to check out my channel and my playlist for the actual, for all the movies I've ever done, I will keep those up in these corners right up here. And yeah, I will see you all next time.